All right, guys, let's get started into this brand new lesson. I'm excited to launch this out with you guys. We have come a long way. We've covered a lot of ground already in this course, and now it's really about getting to work. This is going to be some pretty deep stuff here. We're going to dive into some very specific and tactical elements that you can bring into the marketplace. And I would suggest having a notebook, some paper, some pens. Hopefully you've been taking notes along the whole way, but this one you're definitely going to want to put pen to pad a little bit, probably play through a couple different times and pick it apart. But what I'd like to suggest you do is actually watch this all the way through first one time, and then from there revisit it and then go piece by piece and kind of start putting things together for yourself. Okay, so watch this all the way through first and then revisit it and then start to actually apply your plan, because what we're going to be talking about today in this lesson is hyper organic marketing. We're going to deploy some very tactical elements into your marketing strategy, and I want to walk you through step by step exactly what that looks like and how to deploy it for your own business. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. Now, before we get there, we've already covered personal branding and basics. I want to make sure that you have in fact completed lesson 5.1, personal branding and basics, and then 5.2, activity versus productivity. These two elements that we've already covered here in module 5 so far are very fundamental to have in place prior to getting into what we're about to go into. Okay, so please make sure that you have actually completed and deployed, meaning you've actually initiated the process of doing what we have talked about in lessons 5.1, personal branding basics, and 5.2, activity versus productivity. Okay? All right, let's dive in. Here we go. Lesson 5.3, what we're going to cover, the three biggest misconceptions people have when marketing. We're going to talk about action drivers and message resonance, what that means, understanding it, and how that impacts your ability to convey your message in the marketplace. We're also going to look at content creation and content delivery. Okay, let's get into it. Now, this one's a good one. The best marketing doesn't feel like marketing. This is by Tom Fishburne. Very interesting guy. He's actually a business consultant, has done big stuff with Nestle, General Mills, Wall Street Journal, but he's also a cartoonist. He has a really funny market that he's kind of cornered with drawing cartoons, but specific to the business and consulting world. Really interesting guy. Definitely worthy of looking into, just for a good read, a good laugh. But to the point, the best marketing doesn't feel like marketing. So critical, so critical. People hate to be sold to, but they love to buy. Okay, let me say that one more time. People hate to be sold to, but they love to buy. Now, what is that difference? Is because the angle, the position, it's their idea. It's the way that your message is conveyed into the marketplace that makes such a big difference here. And that's what we're going to talk about. So the three biggest misconceptions people have when marketing. Number one is successful marketing is all about posting every day on social media to get your name out there. That's what it's all about, just posting stuff on social media. It's actually about building a strong reputation, creating a unique value proposition, and demonstrating why potential clients should choose you over your competitors. Okay, so it's not just a volumetric thing, but it is something that you want to do consistently, which we're going to talk about. But again, it's not just about blasting out there. The second biggest misconception, to be successful, you need to reach a broad audience and become famous on Instagram or whatever platform, right? To be successful, you need to reach a broad audience and become famous. Not so. While it's true that you want to increase your visibility and reach as many potential clients as possible, it's important to remember that not everyone is your target audience. Effective marketing is about reaching the right people, not just the most people. Okay, so again, it's not just about being famous. You do not need millions of followers on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or whatever to be successful in business. That is not the case. Now, I want to kind of illustrate that with what's called the 3% rule. Now, here we have 100 people in the market. Let's say that, we market to, dog trainers. Why not, right? So we're marketing dog trainers and we say, well, our market are dog trainers and these are all dog trainers. So that's my market. Maybe, but not really. Okay. Maybe in the long term, this would be your ideal market right now. But the reality is that there are only 3% of the people that are actually in market looking for your services and solutions right now. Now, that doesn't mean that others aren't going to come around and need it later or whatever, but the reality is that there's really only about 3% of the market is ready to do something right away. Now, how on earth do we figure out who of the 3 out of 100 people are ready to go right now, right? Well, there's some filtering, there's some self-identification that needs to take place, there's some relationship building that needs to take place, and these are all things that we're going to talk about in this lesson today. The third and last biggest misconception people have in marketing: I'm really good at what I do and I'm better than my competitors, so that means I'll be successful. This is a big one. I know it's not a popular topic to cover with some people. They kind of get their emotions hurt and feelings hurt. But the reality is that the fact is there are tens of thousands, probably even hundreds of thousands of exceptionally talented and highly skilled consultants in the world who are dead broke. The quality of your work and expertise alone is not the sole determining factor of your success. This isn't always fun to hear, but over the years, I've dealt with a lot of subject matter experts. I've helped a lot of people launch businesses, scale their businesses, exit businesses. And here's the thing. Many cases, especially if somebody's been in the game for a long time, they've established a very strong background in what they do. They are a specialist. They're passionate about it. They love what they do. They love helping people in what particular niche or skill set or whatever. And they get frustrated that the market doesn't reciprocate based on that. Here is the thing. The market doesn't care, right? There's a very small group of people that are in the market ready right now to do exactly whatever it is that you're offering. You have to establish credibility. You have to establish rapport. And that is exactly what we're going to go in today. So I just want to really, again, kind of set expectations, give you some clarity here that just because you're really good at something doesn't mean that you'll be very good at business. You can be exceptionally smart, exceptionally talented in some facet or skill, hobby, sport, whatever it is, but that does not necessarily translate directly to being an exceptional business person, an exceptional marketing person. Those are different capacities. Those are different fields, okay? So all that to say, just be prepared for the idea that it's awesome that you're good, and I hope that you are, and I hope that you pursue to get better. But at the end of the day, that's not the sole determining factor. We need to get good at the marketing equation and the business equation, things that we're talking about today. It's ignorant and arrogant to think that the market should find you. You must put yourself out there consistently and effectively. Okay, it's your job to do it. We're going to arm you with the systems, the tools, the tactics, but at the end of the day, it is your responsibility to put yourself out there into the marketplace, stir up the conversations, get dialogue going with your ideal clients. That is your responsibility as a business owner. Now let's talk about understanding action drivers and message resonance. There really are essentially only two motivating factors that spur people into action. Number one is pain. Number two is pleasure. Almost all purchasing decisions are consciously or subconsciously based on that person's belief that by taking action and purchasing that product or service, that it will help them get away from pain or closer to happiness. Okay, these are the two core driving factors. Are there other elements? Absolutely. But if you really look at it, if you start paying attention to marketing, you'll notice that why do they put pretty girls next to different things, right? Because they're selling on sex or happiness or pleasure or, ego, right? Why do they associate other things to pain or fear? Because they're trying to scare you into a tactic or into a movement, or trying to pull out some of the internal pain or conflict that you already have. Okay, these are very powerful drivers, and we need to understand how these translate into our message. How do we use these as ways to spur action in our audience in a very ethical but direct way? And this is why it's so critical to spend time engaging your market and iterating your ideal client profile so that you can identify keywords, phrases, and stories that trigger a response to your marketing. This is a big one, guys. If your message does not resonate with your target audience, if it does not strike a nerve or speak to a want or need that they have, they simply won't take action. They just won't care. They're too busy. There's other things going on in their life. They do not have time to care about what you're passionate about. Remember several lessons ago, we talked about WIIFM, what's in it for me? That is what's stamped into their subconscious. That's all they are looking for. Their brain is subconsciously and consciously looking for solutions to get them away from a pain or closer to a pleasure or desire. That is it. At the most core, fundamental, prehistoric level, that is what our conscious and subconscious is doing. Here's a funny cartoon from Tom Fishburne that I introduced you to just a little bit ago. And, here it's a cartoon that says, "I don't see our brand of pickle relish anywhere." And the other gentleman there, the other consultant says, "Oh, that's inconceivable. This is a brand loyalist." And when you look at the chart, you see, my husband, my kids, mom and dad, career, friends, Fifi, probably their animal, home, sunsets, travel, me. See, the market doesn't care. The market is filled with their own needs, their own pains, their own interests, right? So it doesn't matter how, amazing we are. We need to associate what we do, what we can provide to their needs. I know this is something we've touched on in multiple different facets now, but I just really want to lean in on this, that we need to understand that we have to come from their perspective. Otherwise, things are just simply not going to hit. We need to get inside the head of our ideal client. And you'll remember this chart, right? Problem aware, solution aware, product aware, most aware, sophistication level. These are all elements that we need to really wrap our mind around and remember that this is something that will probably evolve over time. Now let's dive into content creation. This is where we get brass tacks, we get straight into it. So have a pen and paper here ready. But again, let's roll through this for the first time. You can always come back and revisit this with more detailed notes. So first, number one, identify 2 to 3 outcomes or results that your ideal client would want. We should have already been able to pull from this from our homework earlier in the course. Okay, so this isn't necessarily something new you have to do. This is pulling from building blocks that we've already established. Identify 2 to 3 outcomes or results that your ideal client would want. Pleasure and happiness side of things. Number 2, identify 2 to 3 things that your ideal client would want to stop or get away from, pain or fear. Now, these become what we're going to call your pillar topics. Everything that you're going to talk about in the marketplace, at least for the for the foreseeable future here, I want you to focus on these things, these 4 to 6 things, half of which will be focused on pleasure, happiness, what your ideal client wants or is future pacing for. And then the other half on things that they're frustrated by, they're upset, they're worried about, they're scared about, they sit up at night and just stressing out about it, right? We need to know what those are. And now these things become your pillar topics. This is everything you're going to talk about in social media and your newsletters, everything that you're going to do that we're going to be talking about here going forward. These are your pillar topics. Everything needs to stay within your lane so that we get some consistency about a particular topic and these different elements of messaging. Number 4, create valuable and informative content around these pillar topics. Number 5, pre-plan and delegate time every day towards creating and posting content. I'm going to show you exactly what this looks like. Okay, this is a high-level overview right here. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do this and what to do. So let's dive into content development strategy. So here, remember, we have our client characteristics, the pains, the desires, the questions and interests. Okay, these are the things that we know are in their minds right now. These aren't things we're trying to get them to understand. These are things that they already have in their mind. This is what they care about. Now we're going to create value content around those things, solutions and sources for addressing pains, strategies and tactics addressing desires, and then insights and stories around the questions and interests that they have. See how that works? So first we identify what's in their minds, then we create content with a few different value focuses, solutions and sources, strategies and tactics, insights and stories. And those pieces of content become our pillar topics. Everything we talk about are going to stay within the lanes right here. That way that our audience can begin to learn our messaging. They can pick up on who we are. It starts to build our brand and our reputation in the marketplace because we are consistently talking about these pillar topics. All of these pillar topics are things that our signature solution can address. See how that works? So first we have our signature solution. We build out pillar topics based on what our client wants, and then we fill it in with value content. This is a very powerful element. If you just focus on this, create this in your business, I'm telling you, you're going to dominate your field. Very few people simplify it to this point. Now let's talk about selecting social platforms. What does your ideal client use? Where are they hanging out online? Pretty simple, okay? Just because you have followers doesn't mean you have an audience. This is a big one. Just because you have a ton of followers does not mean you have an audience. I'd rather have a much smaller follower base, but people that actually care and actually engage and actually are interested in what I post about in my pillar topics, I'd much rather have a smaller audience who's engaged than just a mass number of people for the sake of having a cool ego-driven number somewhere of follower count. Number 3, in almost all cases, you must have Facebook and LinkedIn. There's very few instances where having one or both of these isn't beneficial. If that's the case for you, that's fine. There's always going to be, outliers here, but in most cases, Facebook and LinkedIn are going to be your primaries. Popular options, obviously, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, Twitter, Pinterest. Over time, there's obviously going to be more and more or fewer and fewer. We'll see how it all goes. And then secondary, Reddit, Mediums, Telegram, WhatsApp, again, on and on and on. There's plenty of others as well. But remember, it doesn't matter all these platforms. What matters is where are our ideal clients hanging out. That's what matters. Now let's look at a professional system so you can get professional results. Narrow your focus. It's better to own your street than be a nobody in the city. Okay. Now I know it's kind of a funny way of looking at it, but I see a lot of people when they're first getting started with their organic content strategy, they're just trying to be everywhere all at once, and it just diffuses their effort. Now there are some systems, some strategies you can use. We're going to get into that will help you cast a wider net than you could just individually posting everywhere. But at the end of the day, just focus on a particular platform first, really get that locked down, and then look for ways to scale your message out farther and farther, casting a broader and broader net. But again, it's better to own your street than be a nobody in the city. Keep it simple and routine. Do the same things at the same time religiously. This is paramount, guys. Consistency is the key here. Consistency is the key. I can't stress that enough. Leverage automation tools. Repurpose.io is just one example. There are many, many others, and there's more and more coming out all the time. Okay, so I'm not suggesting that this is your only option, but there are many different automation tools out there to simplify the process of creating or regenerating content or distributing content. I mean, it goes on and on. That's a whole different show, really. So we'll talk about that one some other day. But just know that there are ways of automating this to make it more streamlined. I like to use Google Alerts for a steady stream of content ideas and time-relevant talking points. If you're not familiar with Google Alerts, just ironically, Google Alerts, and it will fill you in on exactly what that looks like, how it works. But basically, it's just going to alert you at whatever cadence you want with new things or topics that have happened, news events, etc., that have happened within particular fields of interest that you want to follow. And this is just a great primer for things to talk about, to be very timely in your market. Say, oh man, this just happened today. Check this out. And it just allows you to stay very relevant for your audience. Number 5, outsource your video editing and any other elements that aren't in alignment with your strengths. Outsourcing your video editing does not have to be ultra expensive. We'll talk about that later in the lesson here. Okay. So just know that, my suggestion to you would be not getting stuck in the weeds on trying to create videos if that's not what you love to do and that's where your strengths are. All right, outsource. Remember we talked about eliminate, automate, delegate? Well, this would be delegating. Delegate it out to somebody that can do it for far, far, far faster, probably a lot better, and for not a lot of money. There are plenty of resources to outsource this stuff. Number 6, batch your filming sessions into once or twice per month. This is just a way of creating long form content, which we're going to talk about here shortly. But batching it means that you're just doing it all in one day instead of, oh my God, I got to create video every single day. No. That's not what you're going to do. You're going to pick one day or twice a month and just crank out a few different hours of different pieces of content. And that will then that will be the fuel for the entire month's worth of content. I'm going to go into exactly what that looks like here in a moment. Okay. But batching your filming sessions is a big one. And then lastly, engage with those who like and comment. It's called social media for a reason. Okay, get social, get interacting. That's going to allow you to engage. And we're going to be leaning on that in the next lesson coming up about what do you do with those conversations? How do we turn those conversations into monetizable opportunity? We'll be teaching you how to do that. Okay, now you may have heard the phrase content is king. I agree with that, but I also state all the time that distribution is queen. You need distribution. You can create the best content in the world, but if you don't have a distribution strategy, no one's going to see it. Plain and simple. So we need to create a distribution strategy. So let's dive into that now. So what I suggest you doing is picking a platform, at first just one, that you want to create longer form content. Now this could be Facebook with some long posts, or you could even do videos there. It could be a podcast, it could be videos on YouTube, it could be long reels and stories. I mean, whatever you want to do, but it's got to be a long form content. That's going to be the core pieces of your machine, if you will, your content strategy machine. All right. Now, once you have those, you're going to send those to an editor, have them clip them up, create micro clips that can be distributed broadly across whatever platforms you want to use. Now, here's the cool part is that by creating one piece of long form content, you can create 5, 6, 10 micro clips out of it. You can create posts, you can pull the transcripts from your videos on YouTube. Those transcripts can become posts on Facebook. You can clip the videos down into small topics, post those across social media, the different platforms. See where I'm going with that? We're trying to systematize the process of your content creation here. Now, you turn that long form content into micro clips. The micro clips, you're going to be pointing to your assets, meaning your website, a Facebook group or LinkedIn group, your blog, an event that you're running online or in person, maybe your Substack, wherever you really want to drive your people and build a list that you can control. And I'm going to underscore that word, that you control. Because remember, for the most part, other than podcasts, most of these platforms are essentially rented, meaning we don't necessarily own the platform, so therefore we don't own that list. God forbid your Facebook group gets shut down, or your YouTube channel gets banned or something like that, and now that asset, that group, that audience is gone. So as much as possible, we're trying to drive content, use social media as a way to draw people into an ecosystem that we can own. So that could be your website, a group, a blog, an event, a Substack, somewhere where we can start building a list of people that we can maintain in our ecosystem and build a relationship with. All right. Now, those pieces of micro content can also point right back to the long form content. For example, you shoot a long video on YouTube. You have that long-term video or that long video chopped up into micro clips across multiple different pieces of social platforms. Those social platforms can point right back to the video on YouTube. So if you want to start building your YouTube base, you could be posting micro clips across the other platforms and saying, hey, if you want to see the whole video of this, here's my channel, and you provide your link. See how that works? So you can create a flywheel effect to build audience on your social platforms, but you can also draw from the social platforms and push them over to an environment that you can control, that you can maintain and build a relationship with those people. All right. Now, let's talk about action plan and what that would look like. So number one, verify that you truly know your ideal client's mind. This can evolve over time, so you're going to need to revisit it. This is something we talked about a lot, so I won't necessarily go too far into that. Number two, decide on your pillar topics that you will focus all your content around. It's key that you kind of stay consistent with the topics so that the audience has an opportunity to pick up on what it is that you're really all about. If you're constantly talking about different things, they'll never really be able to pick up on what do you stand for? What's this person do, right? So you really need to stay within your lane, so to speak. Number three, plan out next 12 weeks headlines, just enough to know the general focus. All right, just basic topics, notes. Okay, I kind of want to talk about this in the pain sector. I want to talk about this in the pleasure sector. These are the topics I want to talk about. Going back to that chart, you could look at it and you can fill it out. Schedule one day to record the next 4 weeks of pillar content. So you could just block out one day of the entire month and spend, 3, 4, 5 hours at the most filming a bunch of video content. That video content can turn into still images for just regular posts. You could pull the transcripts from those videos, and segments of it could become individual posts or tweets or whatever you want to do, right? The videos could be chopped down into micro clips and distributed across all the other content. Send your long form copy, the pillar content, to an editor. Have them create those smaller clips and just store them in Dropbox or Google Drive, whatever file system you want to use. And then post your pillar content directly on whatever main channel you're wanting to use, your blog, your podcast, your YouTube channel, your group, wherever you want to do that. I would suggest probably Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning seems to be a fairly active time on social media. Mondays get pretty buried pretty quickly. So I tend to post on Tuesdays. And then for the rest of the week, Tuesday all the way back through to Monday again, what I'm doing is I'm using the small micro clips and engaging with the audience. I'm posting every single day using micro content, re-promoting the main core pillar content, or sending them to my list or sending them to my group. But you can see how you can create that flywheel effect because you're directing people either back to the longer form content or to one of your owned platforms. It's fairly simple, guys. It's really not rocket science. It's just a matter of doing it and being consistent, and you'll create a really nice ecosystem of information for your audience to learn about what you're about. Now, some of the teaming tools you'll probably want to consider: a quality phone or camera. You don't need like crazy expensive equipment here. Most iPhones or Android phones are going to be more than sufficient. I mean, they're shooting like 4K quality. So in almost every instance, that's going to be plenty. A tripod is good that can actually hold your phone. That's just kind of nice if you're going to be standing, talking in front of your camera, things like that. That's always nice. Lighting, if you're shooting indoors, you want to be considerate of what kind of lighting it looks like. Again, we want to show up professionally. You don't need some amazing, studio lighting, but you just want to be well lit so that it looks representative of the quality that you want to bring to the marketplace. I'd highly suggest finding a video editor. You can go to Upwork, Fiverr, there's plenty of others. And literally for a few dollars per hour type scenario, you can have somebody clip the videos for you and do a lot of this. It's a relationship worth finding and investing the time, effort, and energy to find this person and send them some work, test it a little bit, make sure they produce what you're looking for. And then you now have someone in your camp, so to speak, to produce that type of content that you need. Again, set up Google Alerts. And then create Dropbox or Google Drive so that you have a place to store your content, both long form and the micro clips. Now, I want you to understand sowing and harvesting. I want you to understand these seasons. Now, if you'd imagine that we are, say a farmer, and we're going out into the fields and we're putting seeds into the dirt, we sprinkle some water on it and we stand there and we're staring at it. And after about a week, we get really pissed off because there's nothing sprouting. That would seem a little ridiculous, right? If we were pissed off that we couldn't start pulling, fruit or vegetables off our plants that we just put in the ground, right? Well, that's what a lot of people do with their content strategies. They get pissed off that they're not seeing instant results. It does not work like that. Remember, we're building relationships. We'll lean on more of this as we get into creating buyer conversations in the next lesson. But I just want you to, again, set expectations. Understand that there are seasons here. You are going to sow and later harvest. But I want to encourage you, just because you're not seeing likes or comments, or especially in the earlier going, that does not mean they are not watching. A large majority of people on social media will not necessarily engage with a like or comment or in any fashion with you, but that does not mean that they're not seeing it. Okay, so just be aware. In fact, I'll share a very short story with you. Years and years and years ago, I went to a high school reunion and I had multiple people come up to me going like, "Hey, Mike, how's it going, man? I saw this and I saw that you were doing this and this and that." And I remember feeling so surprised that so many people knew so much about me. And I thought, how is this possible that so many people are commenting or mentioning things that were very relevant and fairly recent to me? And then it dawned on me that they were seeing it on social media. And yet, if you had looked at my social media at the time, it wasn't like I had tons of engagement. I didn't have millions of followers. I didn't even have thousands of followers. It was very small. And yet it just really underscored like, wow, look at that. They are seeing your messaging that you're putting out in the marketplace. So stay consistent, understand the harvest, the sowing and the harvesting seasons there. It very much is relevant to this. Many people will quit far before they ever get to reap the benefits of all the effort that they've put in to that point. So let's recap. A professional system equals professional results. You're going to want to kind of revisit this. I know we kind of went hard there with a bunch of different stuff all at once, but I want to encourage you to spend some time figuring out, how are you going to create content? How are you going to deliver content? You do not need to conquer the internet all at once. If it's just Facebook, focus just on Facebook. If it's just LinkedIn, focus there. Start somewhere and really build up some energetic momentum on a platform, then go start stretching it out a little bit to the others. Find response triggers, keywords, phrases, and topics. Be polarizing in the marketplace. Be okay with the idea that you're going to stir up some pleasure and pain, Be okay with the idea that you're going to stir up with, any kind of pleasure points or things that they're really going for. You'll typically find the pain points are going to trigger people more because it creates more friction internally, and it's going to draw them to take action. Again, batch your filming and content days. Pretty straightforward stuff. Outsource your editing wherever possible. I'd strongly encourage it. And then keep it simple. Keep it consistent. I'd much rather you have one platform and one strategy for content and be consistent with it than trying, again, to conquer the internet right out of the gates and then just be burnt out after 2 weeks. Okay, this is a long play game here, guys. This is a long game. So you need to make sure that you can stay consistent and create a pattern for yourself that works to your benefit. Now, to spur some ideas, I'm adding a document here in this lesson called 46 Ideas for Content, Organic Content Creation. You can just use these as mind joggers. They'll kind of get you going. Just little things to think about, topics to bring up, and it might help you create a content strategy. Again, all based around what your audience needs. Okay, so let's wrap it up here. Next steps, create your hyper-organic marketing plan. Revisit the video, revisit that structure we shared, talking about the pillar topics. That's really the main game plan here, guys, is to get clear on your pillar topics and then just simply schedule creation and posting days. Just get that consistent. Make sure that those things get done at the same time every single day, every single week, every single month. These things get done at the same time. Create yourself a pattern. You'll start to find a consistent flow with it, and it'll make it seem easier and easier and easier as you go. Okay, now this was a big one, guys, but we're going to move over to lesson 5.4, creating buyer conversations. So if you're thinking, okay, well, I'm putting out this content, now what? Don't worry about it. We got you covered. In the next one, we're going to be talking about buyer conversations. All this work we've been talking about, hyper-organic marketing, what's it all lead to? Creating buyer conversations is what it leads to. And we're going to show you step by step exactly how this works so you can start converting the organic traffic, the organic engagement, get that onto the phone, get it into the hands of people that could really be ready to take action with you. We're going to get into that in the next lesson. All right, guys. Awesome. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. Congratulations for getting to this point. Now let's move on and start monetizing these conversations for you. Okay. Talk to you soon.